Those who write down their goals are 42% more likely to achieve them, according to a study by Dr. Gail Matthews at Dominican University in California.
However, not all goals are treated equally. Some can be more effective than others.
Just so that you guys know, we do have a guide of all the things that we're talking about today in the link below. If you snag that guide and use it, it's going to be very, very helpful. But we're going to talk more about that guide and the tools in it later.
What's up, guys, and welcome back to WaiGuo Friends English. Today we're going to talk about a goal-setting method that can really level up your language learning journey because, frankly, as much as people will say environment and practice and showing up and doing the things, sometimes it's just that we've steered off course because we haven't kept ourselves on the right track.
Knowing exactly what you want and what is realistically possible within the time that you actually have is critical to being able to set a goal that makes sense.
So for example, some people say the phrase, I want to be fluent in English, or I want to be fluent in this language. The problem is that this goal is so vague. When do you want to be fluent by? What does fluency even mean? Why do you want it? What are you going to do with it when you have it? How do you know when you have it?
Even a goal like I want to be conversationally fluent in 12 weeks. Yes, there's a bit more of a measure in there. There's a bit more definition, but what does conversationally fluent mean to you, right? What are you talking about there? Conversationally fluent with who and in what setting, what context, what level of formality? But then you also have, are you talking about smoothness? Are you talking about being able to listen and respond quickly? Are you talking about being able to talk about flexibility in lots of different topics? Like, what are you meaning there? But also, for what? There's no motivation packed in there with that either.
And is it even possible? Sure, if you're already a high advanced level speaker, maybe it's possible. If you're surrounded by English on a daily basis, maybe that's possible. But if you're just starting the language game, it's not really that realistic to say, I'm going to be fluent in 12 weeks.
So we've talked before about goal-setting frameworks. One of the goal-setting frameworks that are really common are the SMART goals. SMART goals are specific, they're measurable, achievable, relevant, and they're time-bound, which is great. Those are all great things to have for a goal, and it's far more useful than I'm going to be fluent. It's better than saying I just want to be fluent in English. However, it is a static goal.
SMART goals don't flex with your schedule. What if you break your leg? Or what if you're not able to perform at the same speed that you were doing at the beginning? You either get the goal, you finish the goal, or you don't. This is a problem because it focuses more on the outcome than the hows, than how you get there. Sure, there may be some measurable parts to the goal, but what if those measurable parts of the goal change? What if you have to change? What if you have to move jobs or move houses and that frustrates your plan? What are you going to do then? These static goals can be very tricky because they give you a false sense of control, of I got this, it's all good, I got all my check marks done, and then real life hits and you cannot accomplish that goal that you had set out to do a long time ago.
They very much focus on the outcome instead of the effort that you're putting into it. They focus on achievement instead of continuous growth. So if you don't reach that achievement, you failed. If you don't finish it within the amount of time that you gave yourself, you failed. If it's something short term, like sure, that's great. But if you're talking about language learning, if you're talking about being able to be fluent and being able to get a job with your English, for example, depending on where you're starting from, that could be a longer goal to go for. It's too difficult to achieve and define to make a static goal that's actually really, really good. Sure, you could do it in short steps, but it's going to be very difficult to break free from the feeling that you're plateaued, that you're not really going anywhere, that you're having to keep moving things up and bumping things back a little bit.
You have two big problems with static goals. Number one is you either make a goal that's too difficult for you to actually achieve, and then you get brokenhearted because you don't finish it. Or you make it to that goal. You get to the end and you realize, oh man, I am not at the place where I was hoping to be. Great, I passed that TOEFL test, and now what do I do with it? I did this thing, now what do I do with it? I got that job, now can I actually do that job? This is the problem with these static goals. They're not bad, and a lot of people say build flexibility into your goals, build flexibility into your SMART goals, but really what they just mean is build margin of error. But the goalposts are static. The goalposts are fixed, and that can be a serious issue when you're trying to deal with real life in goal setting, especially for your language learning journey.
To avoid disillusionment, To avoid being frustrated with yourself or being dissatisfied with where you're at, what can you do? You have 2 keys here. You need to have a goal that is specific, realistic, and measurable. That's crucial. You have to have that. But it also needs to be possible in your current life situation. With the kids being crazy and it's summer at home and you've just got your kids there, you've got things to do, you've got vacation planned. Yeah, your goal needs to be doable in all of that. Because if you keep interrupting your goal or keep interrupting your language learning with all the things that life throws at you, if you keep letting those things interrupt, you're just not going to get there very quickly. You've got to be practicing day in and day out. Commit to something small, even 5 minutes. That's okay. The thing is you have to commit to doing it and showing up every single day. Otherwise, you will keep interrupting your goal. It's like weight loss, right? If you're trying to lose weight, but every time you get a stressful situation, you eat a cake or cupcake, a whole cake would be a little much, I guess. But if you're trying to eat a cupcake or cookies every time, or every weekend, you allow yourself to eat whatever you want without restraint. Okay, but then the other 5 days you're dieting and being good about it, you're not going to really go anywhere very quick.
I will admit that I am not the best goal setter, but a lot of it comes down to the fact that I didn't do this kind of method where I asked myself the question, can I do it now? Can I actually mark it out on a piece of paper to say how much time do I really have? Not how much time would I like to have, not how much time would I like to spend, but how much time do I actually have in order to do this goal? One of the best practices I've ever heard of was just to take a sheet of paper and do the theory of it. Can you actually do it now? And if you can't do it theoretically, time-wise and flexibility-wise and grocery-wise and laundry-wise, then you're not going to be able to do it in reality. Because in reality, it gets even more messy. Like Amber said, you have to be able to do this in your current life situation right now. As opposed to SMART goals, we have a different framework. This framework was designed at Nest Labs, and they created something called a PACT goal. A PACT is also an acronym, meaning it's purposeful, it's actionable, it's continuous, and it's trackable.
That means your goal should be meaningful to you now. It should be meaningful to you in the long term. So it's not something that's like, oh, this is important for me until next year. It's like, it's something that's important to you for a while. Gives you better motivation for longer. It also needs to be actionable, something that you can actually do and control now. This is a step that you can take today. Continuous, meaning it's consistent. It's consistent actions that are very obvious you can take every day toward your goal. It's kind of that idea of improving by 1%, as much as possible. Improving by 1% every day. It's also got to be trackable, something that you can do check marks and say, yes, I did this. I know I've taken steps toward my goal today because I did this. The structure of your goal in this case would be, I am going to do what? For how long? Until when? Until I achieve what? The phrasing has a very purposefully continuous feeling to it, and there's a reason for that. You don't have a static goal that you know you've made it and when you achieve this. Sure, you can set your static goal here, but notice the continuous nature of getting to that goal. And it's not something that you're just cornering yourself saying, November 26th for my test date, I'm going to do this. Static goals like this are helpful, and it can be helpful in your as you are going kind of mindset here, but this continuous mindset is actually really, really helpful to achieve something further on because it gives you a plan inside your goal. Notice you don't have to go on now and think critically of what all you're going to be doing and make this complicated plan because you already have the plan right here, a basic plan, right? You already have a basic step to do. Maybe it's listen to one podcast episode of your favorite English podcast every day. All right, great. Do that. Maybe a little bit later, you're going to realize, oh, well, I'm not growing as much as I want to, so I'm going to add something else. Make something a habit with this. And once you get that to where it's a habit, you're not really having to think about it anymore, then you can add something else. All the while pushing on. Make sure everything that you add to it is pushing on toward that goal.
The thing I love about the PACT goal kind of mentality is that it gives you the for what. It gives you the reason why you are pursuing this goal. A SMART goal would just say, this is the goal, we have to achieve the goal, we achieved the goal, or we didn't achieve the goal. But the PACT goal inside of it is also saying, why are you doing this? What are you going to be able to do now that you've done this goal? Which is a great mentality to have. Here are some examples. I just got a 78 out of 120 on the TOEFL exam. I'm going to study TOEFL practice tests with a tutor twice a week for the next 4 months until I finish the TOEFL exam with 100 points. So we have a measure, 100 points on the TOEFL exam. We have a time, 4 months from now. And for a high intermediate speaker, it is realistic who has 30 to 60 minutes of practice a day, 3 or 4 times a week. So this is a pretty decent goal. So let's look at an example that's a little bit more intangible, a little bit more difficult. I'm going to do 3 hours of training each week for 6 months with a speaking coach to eliminate 90% of stuttering, filler words, consonant syllable mispronunciations in my English conversation and presentations at work. So we have a measure, 90%. It's measurable how? How is that measurable? By you feel like you don't make as many mistakes, you don't make as many stutters. You have a time, 6 months from now. And is it realistic? For an advanced or fluent speaker, this goal is obtainable with consistent practice, but maybe not so much for an intermediate. We're still going to have some problems, and so we have to take that into account.
And sometimes the measure is just your confidence. You don't necessarily have to have one of these beautiful goals that seems so watertight and perfect and has a perfect end date. Some of you study English because you enjoy it. It's fun. It's something that you don't need for work or for travel or something. You just enjoy the language. And for you guys, you want to set a goal so that you're a little bit more motivated and actually show up to do something that you enjoy every day. Well, if that's the case, for you, measure your confidence. Set something in the future for fun as a reward that you would love to be able to do with your English. And say, until I go to America, or until I go to that conference for one of my favorite hobbies, until I go hear this speaker, this native English speaker that I love to follow, and I want to see them on stage. Until that time, I want to be doing this English practice so that I can get more out of it when I'm there. So sometimes you don't have something that's super specific. It's just like, I want to feel like I don't stutter 90% of the time. I want to feel like I'm able to hold a smooth conversation. Something like that is also okay, and you can use it in this goal. Yes, it's not very specific, and that's okay. Some of you don't need a very specific goal, but you need something to say, okay, show up and keep going.
So today we have a guide for you guys so that you can be able to download this, fill it out, and it's got a lot of things for you. Probably most importantly on this guide is it has a link where you can have your own feedback sheet. The reason why this is good because that T in PACT is trackable, and a lot of times we want to have this evidence that we are on the right track, that we are going in the right direction. As James Clear would say in his Atomic Habits, we have these votes that go towards our new identity. I want to be a language learner, not I want to be learning a language. So for you guys, it's very, very, very important to be able to not only do the right things, not only check some boxes, but also be able to put some time frames on it to say, I know and I have proof that I have grown in my goal, in my ability, in my confidence, because I can see it. You can see it on that feedback sheet. This is exactly what we do with our students at Fluency Fast Track, is we give them this feedback sheet, and we as teachers get to experience the joy with our students to say, you are making fewer mistakes. Now, as much as that doesn't sound fancy or shiny or I passed the TOEFL test, what it does do is it shows and gives actual proof that a person is growing in their English. The language learning journey is a long one, and you need to have this proof that, hey, I am getting better. And it's not just, I can listen to that news channel now. It's not just, hey, I finished the book. All of that's a nice one too. It's, how am I actually sounding? How am I actually speaking? It's getting feedback from people who have really attentive ears to you and seeing physical proof that you are getting better, that your English is getting better.
As you work through this guide, if you get there and you're like, this is awesome, this is great, I can do something with this, and then you find that you're not sticking with it, you're really struggling to stick with it, you probably need some outside accountability. You need a tutor, or you need a small group going to the same goals or similar goals as you to keep you showing up. Because ultimately, your biggest opponent in any kind of goal or language learning thing is you. It's not the language being so hard, even though English is a very difficult language to master or even to get to comfortable in. The bigger opponent is actually yourself and your lack of motivation or your hatred for learning or, whatever it is. I've had the pleasure of speaking with some of you guys here recently and saying, yeah, I'm an introvert. It's kind of a big thing. It's something that a lot of people are saying. Guys, guess what? I'm an introvert. I had to learn languages as an introvert, and it's not easy. You're right. But if you have somebody there cheering you on, you have somebody there who sees all the things, who knows your goal, who's pushing you toward that consistently, and they're helping you get there, That is so helpful. And for introverts especially, it might be what you need. If you are that serious about your goal and you're very serious about getting to a comfortable level in English, for your situation, getting somebody on your side, in your corner, who knows the struggle, who knows the challenge, that's very helpful. But if you are one of those more confident people that you can go out and just breathe the air that the native speakers are doing and learn the language, like this guy right here, you might not need somebody in your corner as much.
But either way, one of the things that's absolutely necessary is being able to have a person who can at least look over your goals to say, hey, this doesn't look realistic to me. Or, hey, how are you going to track this? How are you going to keep track of this? And that is absolutely necessary. It can change the game for you as far as your language learning journey goes.
All right, guys. With that, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you grab that free guide in the links below, and we will see you next time.